Hi, everyone. Welcome to the this week's Reading the Pictures Micro Salon, our new fun experiment. I'm Cara Finnegan. I'm a writer and a teacher who studies the history and political uses of photography.
And I'm Michael Shaw. I'm the publisher of Reading the Pictures, and we are excited to be. We're still in beta mode, but
Yes, definitely beta, beta.
doing our second edition, roughly looking at pictures or looking at rough pictures of the
That
week.
too, yeah.
So so we have three images to talk about today, and we'll go about 20 minutes. And what a strange week for trying to decide what to talk about. Like not much happened, right? Government shut down, stock market went crazy, Nancy Pelosi's Dreamer Marathon, the Olympics, and the North Korea hijinks, the White House sexual abuse Porter scandal, Super Bowl. So it's not like anything really happened, right?
I know the Super Bowl Sunday feels like 159 weeks ago, doesn't it? It's crazy. It's crazy. Yeah. So, and we've got, I guess we're sort of starting with a kind of Super Bowl photo. Michael, do you want to give us the caption on this first photo of the micro salon?
Yeah, I think this actually circulated in the news on the news wires, and in fact, I'm pretty sure it did. But I pulled it off Instagram. The caption, the photo's by AFP photographer Saul Loeb, and the caption reads: "U.S. President Donald Trump and First Lady Melania Trump watched the Florida Atlantic University marching band perform prior to a Super Bowl party at Trump International Golf Club in West Palm Beach, Florida."
Okay, this photo. Okay, I get what this photo is trying to do, right? I get what this photo is trying to do. It's trying to talk about Trump and harassment, and it's interesting given the way the week at the White House ended that we're talking about this photo, which kind of opened the week. I get all of that. I feel like this photo does a disservice to the college students pictured in it. I teach college students. In other words,
Title IX issue.
We're supposed to think about this in the context of all of those things, right? It's supposed to be kind of, a shot at Trump, and I just kind of can't get beyond that. And the framing of that, I mean, is sort of opportunistic seeming to me. I don't know, if that's your take. It's kind of a one-off joke, but then the more I thought about it, that I was like, this is at the expense of people that I don't think it should be at the expense of. That's my take.
It's really strange now that you said that. I wasn't, maybe it's my maleness. I wasn't thinking about that, but now it makes me think about those images from the Nassar trial. And
the one that we talked about in our first micro a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, and in that case, you'd see the photo of the woman in the court confronting the doctor, and then you see a photo of her from her performance days, and then this is sort of a perversion of that in a way. I mean, I agree with you. I agree with you. Now, if I was one of those cheerleaders or a parent or a friend of one of those cheerleaders, I understand that this is supposed to be a mean photo, mean in a way that it reflects the meanness and the misogyny of Trump and the White House. But yeah, there's some serious trade-offs here.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to think about it. And one of the things I always think about when I look at photos is I spend a lot of time thinking about where the photographer puts me, the viewer. And the photographer is basically putting me in a place where I can't get out of looking at those young women's behinds. And and they are performing on behalf, presumably, of their institution at this event, right, for the president. I'm not necessarily all that comfortable with the space that this photo puts me in as a viewer. And again, you could reimagine it where are they trying to get at the Trump is creepy with women thing? Like, okay, yeah, right. But I don't think this photo does it for me. And yeah, so I don't know what else to say about it. I mean,
Well,
again, I get it, but I'm kind of like, oh, it's just a little too easy from a visual standpoint, I think.
well, it'd be interesting then to take a poll or to somehow be able to tell like how it did strike others, because it's very, very uncomfortable, and it's uncomfortable in the way that you described. But then, what's the overall impact of that? I mean, Trump is making us very, very uncomfortable too, with not only his denials about his own behavior, but like instant, we have to believe what this person said, over and over again. So, we're talking about an administration and leadership that is really tawdry. And if this photo feels exploitive, in some way, it's the same thing that the White House and the president's doing to us. This is Stormy Daniels territory. This is, or just how the Porter resignation got strung out, and how it was defended is that they were hiding this. Right. So I don't know. I think you can argue it both ways, that the exploitation and the discomfort is really just, I mean, this is what photographers do also, and what they're doing in this era with Trump is they're saying things in pictures that are, harder to say in words. And this is a low blow. And
yeah, it is. But I guess for me, it's sort of like, who's on the receiving end of the low blow, right? I mean, that's my concern. Is I actually don't think this photo, like visually, doesn't make. You can see how the intention might be to make Trump look bad, but I just don't think visually the photo makes Trump look bad. He doesn't appear to be looking at these women in any particularly creepy way. He's standing sort of, very stiffly and formally. And so, again, I just feel like it's not.
I hear you.
If the photographer was trying to kind of trigger that narrative that you just laid out, I just don't think it's successful. And I think it was done at the expense of people who did not even, frankly, know they were the subjects of that photo, right? Who were at that event.
No, I agree. Just one quick thing, by the way, in terms of another detail. There's so much tension between the First Lady and the President, and we know, like, she didn't go to Davos, and then she went to the Holocaust Museum and on her own, and they're like kind of signaling each other or kind of fighting each other through the social media in terms of, or at least she is. But what's interesting is, one thing I think is interesting is the jacket she's wearing, and she's wearing Patriot colors. And you know how much Trump has been close to Brady and to Kraft and to the Patriots. So and then I don't know if that's sort of like throwing him a bone in a way too, like that. So they still manage to be partisan in a photo like this. I think they can't help it. They kind of wear their partisanship and their politics on their sleeves.
Yeah.
So, but I really hear what you're saying, and I will look at this photo differently from now on because of that take.
Yeah. So, more Super Bowl. Should we move on? We've got another image.
Yeah,
sure. From Super Bowl. You're the guy with the list of captions, so I'll have you read us some caption here. You're caption man today.
Caption man. Which the caption reads: Philadelphia Eagles Patrick Robinson celebrates winning the Super Bowl, February 4, 2018. The photograph was taken by Chris Wattie for Reuters. And I don't know, are you a football fan?
Okay, I had a poster of the purple people eaters of the Minnesota Vikings on my wall when I was a child. However, like, not much since then.
Okay, so we can look at it more culturally.
But I've been paying, to me, like, so much about this photo resonates with the conversation we've been having about taking a knee and, where sports and politics are affecting. And the Super Bowl was just in my hometown of the Twin Cities, and so there was a lot of Super Bowl-ness happening on all my social media feeds from that. So, but yeah, I mean, I'm curious, what struck you about this photo? Why are we talking about this one today?
I was really interested in the photo is in terms of it being very ambiguous and how much it says about the body, and then as a metaphor for what the status of professional football at this point. I think we tweeted, our tweet read, "The picture of ultimate joy in a sport that breaks bodies." The way his neck is sort of like, at a weird angle, and I think that there's kind of a pleasure pain aspect to this, and it seems to me that it picks up sort of the love hate that we have about football. And I think a lot of football fans would probably be like, "Oh, come on, this is a joyful picture and you're reading in," but just there's too much in terms of the physicality of that and the awkwardness of that to like not pick up some of the take a knee and like this and all of the things that are like kind of bent or out of shape, or even broken about football and cultural violence. And
that's really interesting you said that about the body, because even just looking at the framing of the photo and the confetti, right? And I guess they must have had pre-programmed green confetti versus like Patriots colors confetti, right? Like you're sort of imagining how this works, production wise. Thumbs up to the production people.
That's great.
So the middle of the photo, the lights, those kind of two lines of lights that are across the top of the screen, and then the kind of lower back. And rear end, kind of curved over of the player, right, Robinson. It's really visually, I think it's really, really fascinating. I mean, your narrative of the body, I did not think of this at all when I first looked at the photo, but like those lights could be like an exam room, right? Like the lights of medical lights almost in a way. And yeah, the curve of the body, the kind of a natural curve of the neck. And the just the perspective from being on the ground, the photographer's sort of down there with him. I thought that was really made this a really visually compelling photo.
But we're not going to go.
I will say, like but then I also got a sense of prayer, kind of relief. I did look him up. There was Wikipedia.
I didn't think.
I noticed that he's hopped around from team to team, and he joined, I think, the Eagles last year. So he may kind of be just like, "Oh my God, this is like the moment I've waited my whole life for." I mean, you can kind of imagine the not the pleasure pain so much, but the just like dramatic relief, right, of all that tension that you would have when you're competing and then you win. But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, this photo is so ambiguous. And like I said, the first thing I thought when I saw it was, I sort of thought of it as a question, like, okay, when is it okay to take a knee in the NFL? And when isn't it? And clearly this is a moment where like it's okay to take a knee, right? Because
oh my goodness,
you've just won the Super Bowl and you're celebrating. But all the stuff about health and concussions and bodies, I think also is really, really interesting.
Yeah, it's taking a knee. That's really great. I'm really glad that you looked him up and you were also talking about just the straight.
Great knowledge of football. I'm so knowledgeable about the NFL. Can you tell?
but to like look at this, we can get accused, or people like reading the pictures and they're thinking, oh, we're going so much for all this cultural meaning and we're all wonky and we're like looking in and it's so much about the symbolism, and do I see that or do I not see that? And so like just in terms of the straight read, and when you're talking about this, I mean, we're talking about not just joy, but the joy of Philadelphia. And as much as these events like the Super Bowl are really important in America, this was their first Super Bowl victory ever. And so, and we're also in this time where like there's so much hate and adversity and polarization in the country, city of brotherly love. So I mean, this is a picture about joy, also, and the long-suffering fans, and how much people in these cities identify with their sports teams, and it brings them, to some break from, the overall insanity. So, let's not miss that.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. I think you're right. And, it, and that sense of, it's a kind of, I don't know, like individuated joy or something where you have, it's like there's a, usually it's like the team, they're all jumping together, they're celebrating, right? And those are
That's
the
right.
photos that end up on the front page of the paper. And this is a very isolated player and a different kind of celebration. And again, yeah, that kind of focus on an individual. But the confetti, right, means that everyone is there too, right?
It's sort of Christmassy also, isn't it?
It is, yeah, with the red and the green, right? Also, yeah.
Well, we pulled this thing apart, haven't we?
I know. My God, it's been in the hospital, it's been in politics, it's been everywhere. So probably time to move on before we really start abusing our powers here. So
well, if you want to start abusing some power in terms of symbolism.
So here's our last photo.
Wow, let's just blast off time for us,
Yeah. Okay. So here's Starman, right? Tell us about Starman.
Starman, man. Okay, so this caption, I think we pulled this from the SpaceX Flickr page. Falcon Heavy demo mission. The photo, official SpaceX photo via Flickr with a crescent Earth in the rearview mirror, a Tesla Roadster, and a space-suited mannequin known as Starman head for deep space after an upper stage rocket firing late Tuesday boosted the sports car into an orbit around the sun. Wow, I just thought photography is never going to be the same when I saw this, and that's all I could think of for a few minutes. I was just like, what, do we need to create some new terms and new frame of reference? This is a news photo. This is a commercial photo. This is this is a science photo. This is,
well, and that somewhere in the not so dark corners of the internet, it's also going to be a conspiracy photo, right? Like one of the first things I thought was, oh, now everyone's going to claim this is staged and never happened, because of course we never landed on the moon either, right? So but then I also start thinking about
fake
memes.
news.
Like, what could you replace that guy with? I thought, could I stick a photo of my basset hound in there? Like she could drive the car, and it's a playful act, I guess. I mean, shooting your car. I think it's actually Elon Musk's red Tesla, like his personal car. Shooting your car into space.
Yes.
Because you can.
Absolutely. This is Elon's channeling himself. This is such an ego move. But also, it's amazing that you mentioned your dog, and your dog's a female. And, I was like, what happened to Star Woman?
Yes. Yeah. Right. Exactly. And how would you know the gender, whatever, fluidity of gender that mannequin
It must be a man. It must be a man.
In that spacesuit, in other words, you could have left it ambiguous. It could have been Star Human, Yeah. I actually got online. I had a long time hanging out in airports yesterday because I was out of town, and Chicago had some snow. There were questions about whether I was going to get home or not, but I got home. But I spent a lot of time in airports, and so I was, glued to my phone, of course, as a lifeline. And I looked at a bit of the video feed and some of the other shots of this moment. And it was just really visually, really trippy. And one of the things I thought about, again, I always like to think about where am I, the viewer, placed when I look at a photo? Like, where does the camera, in this case, disembodied camera, not attached to a maybe remote controlled by a person, like where does that camera put me as a viewer? And some of the photos put you in the car, like you were in the back seat. That was kind of funky and weird. But this photo, I think, is really interesting because it just kind of puts you in nowhere, which I guess is where you would be if you were in space. And it was unclear to me, is that the moon behind Star Human? I'm now going to refer to this as Star Human, just for my own self. So is it the moon? Is it the Earth? I don't know what's back there. It's some sort of planetary object, right? That almost seems like I thought about Pac-Man kind of eating star human. But it's, like you said, photography, it's gone to a new place, and this is a very destabilizing image, I guess, for a viewer. I don't know how else to put that. It's funky.
It's really interesting what you're saying about the planet. Now, when I first saw this, and I wasn't following the whole SpaceX thing that closely. I am now, but the planet was ambiguous to me too. Now, from the caption of what I read, it is the Earth, but the fact that it's ambiguous, and even knowing that, is really interesting. I mean, it is like a crescent moon. It's like the man in the moon. It's like there's it's almost like a dialogue between Starman and the man in the moon. It could be any planet. So I mean, the whole mission is aimed at colonizing Mars. So it could be, it just makes it more like even a bigger agenda and a bigger mission, and more ambiguous that the planet shows up like that.
Yeah, and some of the other photos I looked at, again, apologize to all my friends. I have many friends who actually study space and are extremely knowledgeable. I hope they're not watching. But one of the things when I looked at the other photos was the car looks like it's getting covered in ice, right? Because, it's space. It's pretty cold, one would assume, right? And this image just sort of seems it's like Star Human is going off, could be driving to the beach at night, could be off, anywhere in the fancy Tesla, whereas the other images seemed really vulnerable. And I had a moment where I was like, I don't think we should be taking the Tesla if we're really going to Mars. Like, there's probably a better, like, safer, right way to travel where you would at least be warm and not frozen over. And this photo is really interesting. I know they released a lot of photos, but that they released this photo, it's almost like we're supposed to look at how beautiful the car is, as much as it is we're supposed to think about, like, oh, that car is floating in space right now with a fake human in it.
But it's interesting how much you're talking about and drawn to the car, the Tesla. We say the word Tesla, or how many times we already said the word Tesla, like just like two academic types. And to me, this is also is talking about the corporate takeover of the space program and hyper commercialism. And if you watch the whatever, I guess about 25 minute broadcast, the SpaceX broadcast of the launch, and especially in compared to, like, the Walter Cronkite and the way that they did it,
right, with the little model rockets.
But they had like these 5 engineers, and there was, I think, just one woman on that, but it's like it's like so loose, and just like these pictures are loose, and they're cool and they're sexy, and it's like the hipsters have taken over the space program, and so has Silicon Valley, just like they've taken over media, and there's a convergence of all of that in this picture too. I mean, if the Democrats could take a few hints from Tesla, from SpaceX, and how they did this, they might actually be able to, like, put out some memes and some stuff that's catchy, because this. But this is like the government. What happened to the government in the space program? This hyper-capitalism with that.
That's so interesting, because it makes me think of that salon that you did a few years ago. I wasn't a moderator on it, but I remember watching part of it, the one on science, and kind of seeing science. And it would be really interesting to, like, take all those people and put them together to talk about this image. People who make science imagery, who analyze it, because there's this sense. I mean, this is super commercialized, as you said, in a way that maybe, I don't know. I just, when I think of commercialism from, like, the space program when I was a kid, it's like Tang, right? The astronauts drank Tang, and, like, that was in all the ads. And this is obviously literally a whole other universe.
And when you back to what you were saying too about the car and I mean, isn't this sort of like the open road metaphor on steroids?
Yeah, right. You're right. Like, we can drive in space, and that's, I think that's part of Musk's vision. I mean, I haven't like you, I have not paid like deep attention to what this program is up to or doing, but yeah, right. I mean, the final frontier and all of the ways that you think about with the old space TV shows and things
Yeah, it's
like
like
that.
the
But
open
yeah,
road. I mean,
yeah,
goodness. Although it's not
yeah,
about Detroit now, it's about Silicon Valley, but still
right,
America's love affair with
yeah,
the car,
yeah.
and they're just playing that to the hilt.
Yeah, yeah, like old and new transportation um and also, I mean, we could, we probably should stop, right? Because we could just go on and on.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we should stop.
you can also think about like, well, why does Star Human have to have a spacesuit on? Why couldn't Star Human be dressed in beach clothes? Because Star Human's not an actual person, right? So we're supposed to, I guess, identify with the possibility that we all could go into space like this, and become these tourists in space, right? Which is the thing that I guess will happen. Yes, yeah, and so it is almost like it's like a magazine ad in Esquire or something to a certain extent. Yeah,
Buy your tickets now.
yeah, really do it now before it's too late. Um, so should we wrap up? Do you
Yep.
want to say any kind of final things to folks? I guess what I would say is if people have alternative readings of these images, or if you're watching live or you catch us later, use the comments in Facebook and the other places we're going to post this thing, and share your thoughts about what you see as well.
Yeah, we're interested in feedback and we, Meg, who's our producer, Cara, myself, we are interested in conversation on the Facebook site, and feedback, critique. So we'll be there after also, and then we'll just we're working out the bugs on this, and so stay tuned for more.
Yeah, yeah, and thanks for joining us, and you'll find everything, all the versions of the kinds of things that Michael does and that we talk about at readingthepictures.org. So thanks all. We'll see you soon.
See you soon.